The suspense over Yakub Memon's execution lasted till 5 o'clock this morning. In an unprecedented move, the Supreme Court opened its doors at 2:30 a.m. to hear a fresh plea filed by Memon's counsel and 3 other top lawyers. The last-minute effort was eventually struck down, but here's a look at the key arguments that took place in court number 4. Yakub's counsel argued that the 14-day stipulated reprieve was not provided by the Supreme Court to the death row convict. The counsel claimed they were not misusing the law through their latest plea. Attorney General Mukul Rohatgi hit back and said that a repeated petition does not mandate a 14-day reprieve. He also blamed the convict of abusing the system of mercy petition. The 2.5-hour hearing ending with a 3-judge Supreme Court bench striking down Yakub's last petition. And that brings me to my second question. Has the time come in this country when you have to start respecting the Supreme Court and what our judicial process is all about? Joining me now is Vrinda Grover, advocate who appeared before, was one of the team who appeared before the CJI yesterday. Meera Sood is a young lawyer and a human rights activist who's been raising this issue of the death penalty. I'm also joined by senior Supreme Court lawyer Aryama Sundaram, and in my studios is Saif Mahmood, lawyer and activist. Appreciate all of you joining us. Vrinda Grover, let me start with you since you went to the Chief Justice. On hindsight, would you say that your move was motivated more by a sense of desperation than conviction, given the fact that Yakub Memon had virtually exhausted all his legal options and had been given a fair hearing by the courts?
I think the step that was taken in filing that petition was premised exclusively on the Supreme Court judgment. There was a right that has been provided in the Shatrughan Chauhan judgment by the Supreme Court, and this petition was only seeking that the Supreme Court extends that right also to Yakub Memon. It was definitely not an act of desperation.
The reason I know
there is time, yes, and there is a legal remedy, it will be accessed.
But ma'am, the fact is that Yakub Memon had put up a mercy petition before the president in April 2014, which had been rejected. The fact is there were two review petitions.
No,
the fact is there was a curative petition.
No, Rajdeep, we can't go wrong on facts.
Yes?
We can't go wrong on fact. This was the one that was filed by Yakub Memon with the prison authorities on July 28th was Yakub Memon's first mercy petition. Yakub Memon had not filed an earlier mercy petition.
The April 2014 petition, which was filed through his brother, you are saying you are distinguishing that from what was filed on the 28th of July, is it?
It wasn't filed. Yes, it wasn't filed through his brother, it was filed by his brother Suleiman.
But how do you respond to then Mukul Rohatgi, who told us today that you can find endless mercy petitions? You can file endless, this process will be endless.
You know, there is first I have a basic problem with that kind of remark. As long as a person has an access and has a remedy and the law provides the remedy, the person will seek. And here we are talking about the right to life. We're not talking about somebody saying, will I live in these premises a little longer or do I have to be evicted 2 days earlier? So let's not trivialize it. Will they keep doing this forever? Yes, where the right to life is concerned, the battle will be fought till the last moment because the law allows it to happen. The Chief Justice of India allowed this petition to be heard because there was a legal remedy that was asked for. What I am saying here is, he for the first time filed it on July 28th. He had never filed it, and he raised 2 new grounds. He raised a new ground which did not exist in April 2014.
Okay, I take your point. Can I get Aryama Sundaram to respond to that? Aryama Sundaram, a lot of the activists who have come out and stood out and championed the cause of Yakub Memon are today attacked. Some of them are even called anti-national. Do you believe that is fair? And do you believe, or do you believe on the other hand, they too must start in a sense accepting a certain stage is reached where the judicial process, the legal process are exhausted?
Rajdeep, there's no question of fairness and unfairness about this. I think if you look at it, the whole reason of all this debate, everything which is going on, is that there are 4 distinct kinds of people involved in this entire debating. There is one lot who believe that Yakub Memon ought not to have been hanged, ought not to have been punished. There's another lot who believe that he ought to be hanged, he ought to be punished. There's a third lot who merely believe that because they're against the death penalty to whomsoever given ought not to be given. And there is the fourth who are using this for pure political purposes and stirring up various aspects to further their own political or even communal reasons.
Yes.
Now, these are four distinct lots, and each one will tell you a different thing based on the way they see it. So let's look at it wiping everything else out.
Do you see it as a triumph of the judicial process? Do you see it as a sign of the triumph of the judicial process, or do you see it as a sign of the infirmity of the judicial process that someone who was convicted and handed the death sentence in 2007, who has spent 21 years in jail, has to wait till the very last moment in a desperate bid to get his mercy petition through? Does that show infirmity, or does it show the strength of our judicial process?
In fact, what it really shows is that unfortunately our government has decided to keep the death penalty on the books, and the collective conscience, including of the Supreme Court, is such as to give a person every single opportunity he can have when a death penalty is there. And I think our Supreme Court has really gone beyond and above everything to make up, according to me, for this unfortunate sentence which still continues in India. And I believe the Supreme Court has given every single opportunity which could have been expected in this matter, which I feel is necessary because of this unfortunate provision of a death penalty.
Therefore, Mihir Sood, young lawyers like yourself who have taken up this as a cause to either get the death penalty off the statute books, do you believe that Yakub Memon's case has given you more ammunition, in a sense, to further your cause?
Well, it's that puts a rather opportunistic spin on it, but there are a couple of points I'd like to raise, Rajdeep. One, in your previous segment,
yes,
there was a constant refrain of how the issue is becoming communalized and how political parties are using this issue to fish in troubled waters. I just like to quickly respond to that, saying I don't think it's fair to attack political parties for this. Frankly, the waters are troubled. We do live in extremely communally troubled countries, and more legalistically, looking at the death penalty, I don't think anybody can look at the death penalty and ignore the fact that the death penalty is heavily weighted against minorities, against 94% of convicts on death row. 94%, says a study by the National Law University of Delhi, are Muslims and Dalits. I don't think we can ignore that there is deep discrimination in the
that's not the figure I have. The figure I have, let's be fair. The figure I have is 1,053 people in the last 10 years have been placed on death row. There were 3 executions prior to today's. I have no evidence to suggest that 94% of them are Muslims and Dalits. Let's be very careful with our facts.
94% of the people on death row,
No, let's be clear. When you are saying, you are making a very serious accusation. Brinda Grover, is there any evidence to back up what Mihir Sood is suggesting, that 94% of the people on death row are Muslims and Dalits?
You know, one of the reasons why we are not actually able to have an informed conversation on the issue of death penalty, and I definitely, the various categorizations of citizens that was done, I certainly stand for the to abolish death penalty. We do not conduct actual research and study. The data collection even by the NCRB is so abysmal. Jails do not have records. Nobody knows what is going on with people whose lives and justice is the reason why we are having this conversation. The National Law University Delhi is actually right now engaged, where their students through a death clinic have gone from jail to jail conducting interviews and noting down how many people are on the death row. For the first time, we are actually going to get substantive data which has been verified on the ground, on the basis of which we can take an informed decision where is the impact falling. But what Mihir Sood is saying is correct. we have to understand that this is also the community. The Justice Satcha report pointed out the socio-economic backwardness of the minority community. The Dalits and the Muslims are definitely amongst the most marginalized and vulnerable along with the Adivasis in this country. So why is it a surprise that they will be in prison more, that they will be in death row more? Where is there anyone to protect them?
I am waiting for that national law report to say that 94%. I would like to see the research.
And the Law Commission.
Okay, just a minute. You know, Saif Mahmood.
And the Law Commission
all this research,
Rajdeep, all of this give a report.
Rajdeep, this research will be presented in the Law Commission report that is due to come out.
Yes, I have been part of those Law Commission hearings. I await the Law Commission report on the death penalty. But Saif Mahmood, you have written an article, for example. Just a minute.
They've taken the NLU Delhi research on record.
Yeah, you have written, for example, an article in Kafila, a website where you have suggested that you have a problem with the way the judiciary is at the moment looking not just at death penalty cases, but in the specific instance you've cited of the way they are looking at members of the minority today. Let's be very clear.
Yes.
You've raised it in the context of the hijab case in the All India pre-medical test. Now, are you suggesting that the Supreme Court of this country is looking at sensitive cases from the prism of religion? Surely that is not the kind of way we should look at these cases.
It's certainly not. I'm not suggesting that. But what I am suggesting is that there is definitely a systematic shift in the entire way the state is functioning. All the
give me an example. I know give me an example. Give me a statement. You said
this example itself in the hijab case. If the Chief Justice was to dismiss the petition, please dismiss it by all means. But if you make statements like the Chief Justice made, he said your faith, a Muslim girl's faith will not diminish if she doesn't wear a hijab for one day. There was no need to say all this. Please dismiss by all means if my legal rights are, if there's something wrong with my petition. But when you make such statements, then...
In the Yakub Memon case, the Supreme Court Chief Justice heard it at 2:30 a.m. in the morning. Are you saying that in Yakub Memon's case, the Supreme Court at any stage was discriminatory? Is there any evidence to suggest that?
No, I am not saying that in the Yakub Memon case, and I have not said that by and large the Supreme Court is discriminatory, but there is also no doubt that instances of this kind have started coming up only after this government has come in power.
You know, that's a very serious accusation that you are making, but I want to bring you in, Aryama Sundaram. Because let's be clear, the Supreme Court finds itself in a difficult position because these cases are being politicized by one of the groups that you mentioned, which are political parties, who inevitably make these cases a test case in a sense for political affiliations or where you stand on an issue. Do you believe that the Supreme Court judges are being influenced by this surround sound that's going on?
Let me tell you one thing. If at all there is anything that is influencing judges of the Supreme Court, it would really be the public effect of what they are doing, the effect on public, on society in general.
They're not being influenced by the media. They're not being influenced by the media, the surround sound, the politicians.
Most trying of times, have been able to dispatch justice in a most dispassionate way. I do not think it is fair at all, because if you take this particular case which we have been discussing, I do not believe there is any court anywhere in the world which would have given as many opportunities to a person who was condemned, who had been found guilty, who had not only been found guilty right up to Supreme Court, who had a review dismissed and thereafter had another review. Review itself was heard for more than 10 days, and then his curative petition, then the mercy petition. I mean, these kind of opportunities are not given in any other judicial system, to the best of my knowledge. And this has been given right now in this case. And in that, light of that, I find that commenting on any kind of bias by the court is very uncharitable and very unfair, especially in the light of what we have seen happening over the last month or two over this very case.
Okay, I'm going to give you 30 seconds, Vrinda
And please don't forget, Rajdeep, this was a case where there was a Bombay blast where more than 500, you know, the number of 250 people
were
killed.
I know, but the question that I raised earlier, and I have made it a sustained issue which is part of the narrative. Yes, the people of the Bombay blast perhaps today will get a sense of that at least there has been some sense of justice provided to them. But what about the victims of riots? How are we to see those? I'm going to give you a final word, Vrinda Grover. Because, you know, I know Mihira Sood, for example, in a Facebook post raised the case of Dara Singh and the Graham Staines murder. Why was his case commuted? Are we reaching the stage where we are going to compare one death penalty with the other?
Before you get Brinda in.
Yes, quickly, Mihira, quickly, 30 seconds.
I'd like to just take 30 seconds to defend myself. Let's be fair, nobody is accusing the court of discrimination over here, but as you very rightly pointed out, the issue is that of the surround sound, is that of the public pressure that does get raised in only very select circumstances. The court, I mean, a very telling indicator, one second, last thing, Rajdeep, a very telling indicator is the fact that in a previous death penalty case, the court used the phrase to satisfy the collective conscience of society. If that is not bowing to public pressure, what is? That
was, of course, in the Afzal Guru case. But a final word, Brinda, therefore, should we be celebrating what our Supreme Court has done in providing Yakub Memon every legal opportunity, as Aryama Sundaram suggests? Or is there, as Saif Mahmood suggests, something that the court should be worried about?
Well, I would find it very hard to celebrate on a day that a man has been hanged in this country. What I would say that as a citizen, I have rights. I am accessing my rights, and the Supreme Court is bound to be available. Right. If the man is to be hanged at 7, then perhaps in the middle of the night, the court will have to open its doors. Okay. So I am not going to be servile. I am going to be, I'm going to make sure that this system continues to be available for all citizens.
Okay. Let's leave it at that, and that's an important point. If I was someone who perhaps was not part of a politically contentious case, if I was a poor man on death row, would I get the same benefits from the courts is a question which will be asked in the future. Saif, I will get you for more in the future because I have to move on the program today.